Radio. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Accra, 1 p.m. in Porto Novo. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. This is Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ivorian opposition PDCI launches diplomatic initiative with U.S. government over the removal of its presidential candidate from the electoral list. Amnesty International denounces a proposal to dissolve all political parties in Mali. Terms the move a grave human rights violation.
Dissolving political parties would be a breach of freedom of association and would follow the trend of the increasing restriction of civic space in Mali that we have seen since 3 years now.
Senegal is set to host the 2025 edition of the African Lion military exercise. Liberian citizens unite to support Burkina Faso's military leader Traoré amid assassination threats.
Today, we as a movement to protect Africa's bright minds stand at a critical juncture. External forces seeking to disrupt this progress pose a significant threat to Burkina Faso's stability and their well-being. This potential action raises serious concerns.
Details of these stories and more are coming up shortly.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
My name is Sankule Janko. Happy Workers' Day to you all, and thank you for choosing to stay with us. Welcome to this edition of Newslink, which begins in Côte d'Ivoire, where the opposition PDCI party is launching a diplomatic initiative aimed at ensuring an inclusive and peaceful presidential election scheduled for October this year. This effort comes in response to the removal of its presidential candidate, Tidjane Cham, from the electoral roll. On Wednesday, a delegation from the PDCI's parliamentary group met with representatives from the United States Embassy in Abidjan. The main topic of their discussion was the disqualification of the party's declared candidate for the pending election. Christopher Atechu has the details.
The delegation, composed of 10 members of parliament from the PDCI parliamentary group, was led by its president, Simon Doho, and deputy mayor, Sylvestre Emo, the party's chief executive secretary. While at the United States Embassy on Wednesday, the parliamentarians denounced the exclusion of Tidjane Cham from the electoral list. They also decided to take several actions on behalf of the party to create the right conditions and guarantee a democratic and inclusive election with the participation of their political leader Tidjane Cham. At the end of the discussions, the delegation submitted a memorandum to the U.S. Embassy in Côte d'Ivoire. The two parties agreed to maintain contact with a view to jointly exploring possible solutions that would lead to peace and social cohesion.
Christopher Atechu with that report. And now to the Sahel. Malians are reacting to recommendations that emerge from the recent consultations with key stakeholders about revising the political party charter. The main conclusions from the two-day consultations include the dissolution of all political parties and the appointment of General Assimi Goïta as President of the Republic for a renewable 5-year term. However, there are varying opinions among ordinary Malians regarding this controversial proposal. While some support the recommendations, others strongly oppose them. Here are the citizens' reactions.
The political parties should be dissolved outright, and I completely agree with that. I would have maintained power for 5 years without elections and renewable until the country was specified. I completely agreed. If it's a consensus, I don't think it's a problem. For me, it's not my choice to dissolve political parties. For me, I do not agree. He has already done 5 years. In reality, we do not go to the election. Still, he must resign. He presented himself as committed to doing it. Coming with the idea that political parties should be dissolved seems to me today to be a completely incongruous idea without involving others. At this rate, we are heading towards social tensions within the country.
You just listened to citizens' reactions to recommendations that resulted from the recent consultation on the review of the political party charter in Mali. Meanwhile, Amnesty International has urged Malian authorities to abandon this alarming proposal to dissolve all political parties. In a statement issued on Wednesday, the organization termed the decision as a growing repression of civic space and a lack of respect for human rights of everyone in the country, including critics, defenders, and activists, as well as members of the opposition. Imo Edet has details in the following report.
In its latest statement, Amnesty International stated that the dissolution of political parties in Mali would violate the constitution, which was promulgated in 2023 by the transitional authorities. This constitution guarantees the existence of political parties and affirms their rights to form and freely exercise their activities under the conditions determined by law. Such a proposal would also contradict Mali's international human rights obligations, including the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, to which Mali is a signatory. Usman Jallo is a Sahel researcher at Amnesty International's regional office for West and Central Africa.
Dissolving political parties would be a breach of freedom of association and would follow the trend of the increasing restriction of civic space in Mali that we have seen since 3 years now, with the regular detention of political leaders, the suspension of activities by political parties, and cases of illegal arrest and forced disappearances.
Once approved, this proposal would signify the end of democratic politics not only in Mali, but also in Burkina Faso and Niger for the next 5 years, and these three Sahelian states are determined to end party politics. In reaction to this fear, Usman Jallo says,
the military leaders, namely General Assimi Goïta, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and General Abdourahmane Tiani, have to respect the promise to return to civilian rule.
A national dialogue organized by the authorities in May 2024 and boycotted by the majority of political parties recommended extending the military transition until the country is stabilized. Furthermore, in June 2024, 11 political party leaders were arrested and charged with conspiracy against state authority and opposition to legitimate authority, although they were provisionally released in December 2024.
Imo Edet with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Senegal is set to host the 2025 edition of the African Lion Military Exercise. Organized by the United Nations, this exercise will take place from May 3 to May 15 this year. The strategic training is scheduled to occur at the tactical training centers in Doji, located in the center of the country, and in Chess in the west. The theme for this year's exercise is the strategic crucible of cooperation and shared experience. Augustine Colley has the details.
This military exercise, jointly organized by the Senegalese and American armed forces, aims to strengthen interoperability between participating forces in the face of multifaceted security threats. In addition to the United States and Senegal, soldiers from Côte d'Ivoire, Mauritania and the Netherlands will take part in this activity, which is part of a transatlantic strategic partnership. The military training sessions include firing tests and counter-terrorism simulations. These exercises will allow the forces involved to test their response, coordination, and adaptation capabilities in the face of an unconventional enemy. Beyond the purely military aspects, several military activities are planned to benefit the local populations of Jodi and Chess in west-central Senegal. These include free medical consultations and medicine donations. This humanitarian component illustrates a close-knit approach to providing assistance to host communities. As a reminder, Morocco hosted the 2024 edition of African Lion last year.
Augustine Colley filed that report. On bilateral relations, the government of Nigeria and the United Kingdom have initiated a groundbreaking partnership aimed at combating cybercrime. This joint cybercrime task force marked the first collaboration of its kind between the two nations, uniting key agencies within a coordinated framework. WADR's Usman Omar reports from Abuja.
The Joint Case Team on Cybercrimes, known as JCTC, is being hailed as a major step forward in Nigeria's fight against cyber threats. Formally launched in Abuja, the initiative brings together Nigeria's top law enforcement and judicial agencies under one roof, including the Police Cybercrimes Center, EFCC, Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, and National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, with support from the UK government and the Commonwealth. Speaking at the event, Nigeria's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, said the collaboration marks a new era of synergy in justice delivery.
The Joint Case Team on Cybercrimes was backed in response to the need for a coordinated and robust approach to fighting crimes as contemplated in the Cybercrimes Prohibition, Prevention and so on, that is etc. Act 2015 as amended.
The team will focus on fast-tracking cybercrime investigations and prosecutions by reducing bureaucratic delays and improving intelligence sharing. The UK's National Crime Agency and Foreign Office are backing the initiative, having already provided IT equipment and training for the Nigerian team. UK's Minister of State, David Hanson, said the UK is proud to support efforts that protect citizens on both sides of the Atlantic.
From our own dealings with fraud and with cybercrime, that cybercrime and fraud are major drags on growth in the economy, on confidence in people in the economy. And this initiative today, therefore, is very welcome, both to support the development of tackling crime, but also to encourage, through that tackling crime, growth and investment in Nigeria and cooperation with the United Kingdom as a whole.
The official launching ceremony concluded with a formal signing of a memorandum of understanding and a call for integrity, unity and courage from all members of the task force. The JCTC is expected to become a model for cross-border collaboration in tackling cybercrimes across the West African sub-region. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Elsewhere in Ghana, the African Judicial Independence Fund, AJIF, has warned against the politicians of the ongoing process to remove Ghana's Chief Justice Kotado Tokono. The organization cautions that such a move could undermine the judicial independence and erode public trust in the justice system. This concern comes as the Ghana Bar Association calls on the president to rescind his decision to suspend the Chief Justice, even as a 5-member committee investigates a prima facie case established against her. From Accra, WADR's Nadi Tete reports.
In a statement released on Wednesday, the Africa Judicial Independence Fund, AJIF, noted that the existing constitutional process for the removal of Ghana's Chief Justice, requiring a prima facie determination by the President in consultation with the Council of State, followed by an inquiry by an ad hoc committee, appears so far to be intact. It, however, stated that while the group takes no stance on the merits of the current calls for removal, it is deeply concerned about the broader implication for judicial independence and democracy. The AGIF pointed to structural weaknesses in the current framework that make it accessible to political manipulation. The group cited growing public distrust in the judiciary, including concerns about perceived partiality and executive overreach, as shared by civil society and legal experts at recent public forums. The AGIF has called come at a time when the Ghana Bar Association has called on President Mahama to revoke the Chief Justice's suspension while investigations continue. Government, however, maintains that it is acting lawfully. Here's the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine.
Legal counsel to the President and everybody who has been involved has been very careful to ensure that the Constitution and laws of this country are obeyed in every step that the President has taken. And we believe that he has not violated the Constitution. And there's no reason why he should reverse himself.
Meanwhile, the AGIF is calling for reforms, including transparent judicial appointments, a stronger judicial council, and better resourcing to restore public confidence in the judiciary. For WADR, Nadi Tete, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at WADR.com. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ivorian opposition PDCI launches diplomatic initiative with the U.S. government over the removal of its presidential candidate from the electoral list. Amnesty International denounces a proposal to dissolve all political parties in Mali. Terms they move a grave human rights violation. Senegal is set to host the 2025 edition of the African Lion military exercise. Still ahead in the news, Liberian citizens unite to support Burkina Faso's military leader Traoré amid assassination threats.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Liberia, several citizens carried out a demonstration through the streets of Monrovia on Wednesday on the Debana Africa March for Freedom to express their support for Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The demonstration was organized in response to concerning reports of alleged threats against the life of the Burkinabe military leader. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker has more in this report.
The peaceful demonstrators made their way to several major embassies, including the United States and France. They delivered a petition addressing the ongoing situation in Burkina Faso and called for international attention and support. The group articulated a strong opposition to actions perceived as attempts by imperialist forces to destabilize progressive leadership across Africa, particularly in light of Traoré's rising influence. They emphasized that he represents more than just a political leader, as he embodies the aspirations of a new generation committed to reclaiming Africa's identity and securing its futures. Though in the march, participants declared that defending the Burkina Faso leader is important to defending the vision of an Africa led by its people united in the quest for continental revival.
Esteemed representatives of the Ivorian government, today we as a movement to protect Africa Bright Minds stand at a critical juncture as reports suggest that the Ivorian government may be considering leading assistance to the United States in undermining the president of Burkina Faso. This potential action raises serious concerns about the principles of national sovereignty, democracy, and international cooperation. External forces seeking to disrupt this progress pose a significant threat to Burkina Faso stability and the well-being.
The event served as a reminder of the shared struggles faced by African nations and the importance of solidarity in overcoming external challenges. For Newslink on WADR, Ibrahim Parker, Monrovia.
A similar protest is scheduled to be held in Ghana by a group of young people on the Debana Walk with Traoré. Ernesto Yeboah, convener and leader of the Economic Fighters League, will be joining us on the guest segment in a bit. Let's shift our focus on a different subject. It has been almost a week since Pope Francis was buried in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, Italy. Following his death on April 21 of this year, the time has come for his succession. The 133 cardinal electors from around the world will gather on May 7 to elect his successor. One cardinal to watch closely is Robert Sarr from Guinea. In Conakry, both Christians and Muslims are joining forces to support his candidacy for the head of the Catholic Church. Francis Boniface has the details in the following report.
Cardinal Robert Sarr, as the head of the Catholic Church worldwide, is the main subject of discussion by Guineans of all faiths, Muslims and Christians alike. Bella Ba is a fervent supporter of Cardinal Robert Sarr. For him, the open-mindedness and religious understanding of the world could work in his favor.
Nowadays, there is a strong chance that the balance may weigh in on this side, since Cardinal Robert Sarr has distinguished himself in his positions, in his vision of the Church, and I believe he has every chance.
Additionally, Frederick Loa, a faithful Catholic, hopes for the election of Cardinal Robert Sarr to preserve the values of the Church.
Given his conservative stance and his mystery of of international issues, as well as his understanding of canon law and the realities of the church, I believe he meets the criteria necessary to be elected Pope in the current context. To say that it is out of the question for the church to bless, regardless of the context, homosexual couples.
Meanwhile, the Archbishop of Conakry, Monsignor Vincent Koulibaly, pleads that whoever is elected Pope in the coming days, the Catholic Church must maintain its unity.
The problem is not a matter of ethnicity, it is a matter of God. May the will of God be done. That is our prayer.
Civil society organizations and opinion leaders plan to hold a silent march in Conakry in the coming days to support the candidacy of Guinean Cardinal Robert Serra.
A report from WDR's Conakry correspondent Journal Alpha Ibrahim Balde, voiced by Francis Boniface.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest is Ernest Yeboah, a Ghanaian. Yeboah, who is the leader of the Economic Fighters League, says his movement is organizing a peaceful march in Ghana this month, specifically on African Liberation Day. However, the activist informs that the rally in Accra, which will follow many held in major cities across West Africa and in the global north, is to support the Burkinabe transitional president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He tells WDR more about the march tag Wall Walk with Traoré.
Captain Ibrahim Traoré represents the modern phase of the anti-imperialist struggle. The narrative has been that every time that Africa gets a sensible leader, and I mean a leader that thinks about their people, a leader that answers to the commonsensical questions of governance that appears to be eluding us in this Western democratic framework, it would appear that that leader is isolated through propaganda and then eliminated. They did it to Kwame Nkrumah, they did it to Lumumba, they did it to Sankara, they did it to Gaddafi, and the list is endless. On the contrary, governments or leaders that have obviously not acted in the interest of their people have been allowed to remain in power for as long as they want. When we had Gaddafi, this man who was able to materialize for the first time the idea that socialism is workable and brought honor and glory to his people, this guy was targeted and eliminated. Today, what is the story of Libya? And so we are very clear in our minds and do not take lightly the threats initiated by the African goon, Michael Langley, who told the U.S. Senate that Captain Traoré is using the resources of Burkina Faso to protect himself, in power. We know clearly from the script what they did with Gaddafi, Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah, and all, that they have begun and they are not going to stop. And so we African people are sending a strong message that if they would eliminate Comrade Traoré, then they may as well eliminate all of us, because he is not going to work it.
What does Ibrahim Traoré, represent to African youth? Is he a symbol of awakening or African ideologies like that resonate with the likes of Nkrumah that you mentioned, Sankara as well, Lumumba?
He is a symbol of the leadership that Africa requires to be able to get up from the indignity that it has been subjected to all these years. A commonsensical approach to governance. Look at our so-called democratic African presidents and look at the lives they lead and contrast it with the lives of the people they lead. It is clear and obvious that something does not add up. Contrast it with Comrade Traoré and look at his modesty and look at the programs he's undertaking in his country to ensure that poverty is kicked out of that country. And so everything points to the fact that Traoré represents that leadership that Africans have been yearning for.
What do you and other African youths fear most could actually happen to Ibrahim Traore?
One, that he might go down the line like the way Nkrumah, Sankara, Gaddafi and co did, which is also why we are taking the necessary steps that he doesn't go down that line. It is our duty, it is our responsibility to protect this beautiful son of the soil and ensure that what happened to our forefathers and foremothers does not befall him. He has taken to, a very courageous path where people or most of his colleagues, presidents, have run away. He has just decided to walk on that path. And so we just want to assure him that he is not walking alone. He is walking with the rest of Africa. And that is what May 25, this year's march is all about. We are walking with Traore to say hands off Africa and to call on Africa to unite.
That was Ernest Yebo, a Ghanaian activist, talking about, planned protests in Accra, of course, on Liberation Day this year for Captain Ibrahim Traore. Now let's bring you some sport news. So we will begin with, the African Under-20, because the defending champions in Senegal will begin their CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations title defense against Central African Republic CAR with a Group C class at the Swiss Canal Stadium on Friday. This is the first meeting between the sides at the CAF Under-20 AFCON. Though Senegal are facing the Central African nation at the finals for the fourth time and have never lost, because they've won 2 and drawn 1. They drew and won against Cameroon and 0-0 in 1995 and 2017 and defeated Congo 4-3 in 2015. All 3 games were group matches. CAR have met a defending champion previously in 1981, and their first round and qualifying game was against Algeria. They won the first leg 4-1 but could not play in the second leg due to civil unrest at home. CAR are facing West African opponents for a third time after they lost to Burkina Faso 3-1 and Gambia 3-0 in the 2021 group stages and quarterfinals. Elsewhere, Democratic Republic of Congo will face 4-time champions Ghana at the CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations Egypt 2025 when they meet in their Group C opener also at Swiss Canal Stadium on Friday. It will be a first meeting between the sides at the finals in the group stage. But DR Congo have played West African teams 4 times. 3 of those games have been against Nigeria. The other was versus Mali. DR Congo's record against West African teams read, of course, they drew 4 and lost 2. All 7 of Ghana's previous games at the finals against Central African teams have come against Cameroon. They have won 2 in the 1993 and 2009 finals. Their only loss was in the group stage against Cameroon. And in the UEFA Champions League, Barcelona were held to a 3-3 thrilling draw at home by Inter Milan. Thuram took the lead before DeMarco and others scored, but Lamine Yamal, the young sensation, scored for Barcelona as well as Ferran Torres and Rafinha. It promises to be an interesting second leg in the return leg in the Italian side that is Inter Milan. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek, as well as of course, Fallu So for their technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X and Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is the Environment Program Enviroscope with Abdullah Hassan. I am Sankule Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.